for 2. Kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for 2. Sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving here with. Ooh, listen to this, multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top end. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo! This is the armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo! This is the armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, welcome to episode 250 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. We're having some technical issues. Hopefully that gets fixed as we go along here. I don't know what's wrong with my internet tonight. It doesn't want to work properly. But of course, we are here as always, presented by the Going for 2 Live Podcast Network. We're live every Wednesday night on Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and all major podcast networks. We're also the Going for 2 app for iOS and Android. If you are on Twitter, comments are not working on Twitter, so please go find us on YouTube and make sure you hit that subscribe button when you get there. Just search for 2 Live and we should pop up. I'm here as always with my co-host, Mr. Ryan Searfoss. Ryan, what's up, man?
Oh man, just loving free agency. It's been a good year for it.
Has it really? I mean, it's been fun for content creators, but you said before the show that you kind of hate all the landing spots of all these guys.
I mean, I hate it for offensively fantasy, which we're going to get into, but I love the Ravens free agency, so I'm happy.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Like we got a right tackle with safety and line or edge. I'm happy.
Yeah, y'all been doing some things. My Niners never do anything for agency. I don't even get excited about free agency because they never do anything good.
That's because you guys are trash.
All right. Also joining us tonight, his first time on the show, Garrett. You can follow him at Garrett BFF. He is part of the Fantasy Six Pack Network over there with Joe. You know, we're good friends with Joe over there. I did a show with him over there during the season. So Garrett, man, give my listeners here a little bit about yourself.
Well, I mean, as far as fantasy content goes, you know, I just started early the preseason last year. On the same day that my daughter was born, our second daughter, and been enjoying it ever since, doing everything from DFS content to quarterback streamers and my own Twitter stuff. I have my own podcast as well. Go ahead and mention it, I guess. I don't know.
Go ahead and plug it. Yeah, plug away.
Sure, why not? If y'all want to go ahead and check that out, it's Ballfield Banter. After y'all are done listening to this podcast, you can find it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and I believe it's on Google Podcasts as well. So, I appreciate it.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, let's get right into it because we got a packed show tonight. We got a ton of things to talk about.
And now, the five 101s.
All right, Garrett, this is how this works. I'm going to give you 5 categories that are not related to fantasy football. Give me your 101 of that category. First one here is 101 adult beverage.
All right, so y'all are going to love this because I'm not a very big, liquor beer guy, but I'm very much the fruity guy. So if you guys give me some, Mike's Hard Lemonade, that'd be fantastic.
Nice.
That's for me. I've had a lot of people laugh at me for that, but it is what it is.
I think when you set it up that I'm the fruity guy, it's probably not the best way to set it up.
I think it's the perfect way to set it up. I appreciate it.
That's all right. I think Shane, who comes on the podcast every year, his thing is White Claws, so we
there we go.
As well. All right. What is your 101 all-time video game?
That is a very tough question for me, but I narrowed it down just from the viewpoint of nostalgia and whatnot. Did y'all ever play the original Star Wars Battlefront on PlayStation 2?
Yes, I did.
That would be my 101. Just I don't know. I have so many memories playing that game with my dad. Growing up, that's kind of that was my first shooter game, and I
Nice.
still enjoy playing that thing. So
Nice. You're just aging me because I remember playing that game and I was drinking and getting drunk and playing with my friends at like 20 something. So, all right.
yeah, I don't know how old I was when I came out, but somewhere in the realm of 7 or 8. I'm not that old.
Yeah, when I first
the-
when I first did the adult beverage thing, I'm like, is he even old enough to drink? Should I even put the adult beverage thing on there? It's just barely.
barely.
Some people in this room have been drinking since they're like 12. Not a big deal. No name said. We're fine.
Yeah, the same guy that gets trashed on our 4-hour draft show. That would be Ryan right there.
Yeah, I don't get to do that. I don't get to do that this year. It's not fun.
Yeah, we're breaking it
Not
up
as-
this year. It won't be a
Yeah, not as
4-hour
fun as
show
it used
this
to be.
If I want to stay on, can I?
year. I mean, as long as they, we can have up to 10 people on restream. So as long as whoever the next show is wants to have you on, which I'm sure they will find, it'll be good.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right.
By the way, Thomas on YouTube, Battlefront 2 is actually that is another fantastic one. Sorry, just want to mention that real quick.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So the next one here is kind of an interesting one. So if there is one question you can be given the absolute 100% truth to, what would your 101 question be?
All right, so this is going to sound weird, but it's something that I just found out my brother-in-law also has the same question as I do. But basically, how can we be sure that we are all seeing the same exact colors? Like what I see as green, like my shirt, like do you, like is that,
Is
I
that
know
still
you say
green?
that's also green, but that might be my blue. If that
That's
makes
very-
sense.
yeah.
Like,
No, I totally makes sense. I get it. Like, there's no way for me to tell you what green looks like because I know what green
Yeah.
looks like. You know what green looks like, but
Mhm.
it might be different. Like my green might be your blue.
Exactly. Yeah. And someone else, my red might not be your red, but neither of us know because we both associate that color as red. So,
Nice.
yeah.
I haven't come up with one that I want to do yet. I haven't brought it up on the show yet because I think about it all the time, and there's a few that come to mind, and then I think about it, and I really like I want to know is Area 51 real? But then
Dude, Area 51's real.
if the
Yeah.
answer
It's
is
definitely
no,
real.
if it's no, then it's a boring answer.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
the answer to that question.
Dude, have you ever heard an interview with Bob Lazard? Area 51's real, and so are aliens.
I know it's a real place, it's actually there, but is the whole like alien, all that crap that's they're talking actually there? But like I said, that's not my question because if the answer is no, then I just wasted my question. I want a question that's going to be
Yeah,
no matter what side it's on.
Go
I mean, if
go
you
back, search Joe Rogan with Bob Lazard, and he'll answer all your questions.
All right, I will
It's,
do
if you
that.
want like
it's insane.
like a
Sorry.
sports related one would be like if Derrick Rose never got hurt, what would happen?
What would he be?
Like
Yeah.
that's yeah. But I think
I
that's
think-
been asked like 8 million times. So
Derrick
I
Rose, if
didn't
he
want-
never get hurt, would be Ja Morant. I think Ja Morant plays a
Probably.
lot like Derrick Rose.
probably,
Ja
Yeah.
Morant's like
So
Derrick
good.
Rose incarnate.
yeah.
All right, next one here. Fictional character you would like to meet in real life.
It would be Steve Rogers / Captain America. I've got several
Nice.
Captain America shirts. I made my own shield at one point.
Nice.
Out on
Yeah,
what?
a extremely heavy duty plastic sled.
Okay.
Nice.
Like not the cheap ones you find at Walmart. I mean, this thing it was like thick,
Like the
you know,
Target one.
pretty
Yeah.
much. I mean, it was quite hefty actually. So I even cut up a leather belt and strapped it onto the shield to kind of make that, I don't know, that authentic look.
So are you
But yeah,
heavy
it-
into the MCU? Like you watch every movie and every show and look at all the
I'm a little bit behind on the MCU as far as the films go, but only by like what 2? I've missed the Eternals and the newest Spider-Man movie, but that's mostly
Oh,
because
It's so good.
that's what I've heard. It's hard to do with trying to find time to go spend 3 hours when you've got a 23-month-old and a 8-month-old. So
yeah, 100%.
but yeah,
All
other
right.
than that, yeah, I've watched all
Last
the
one
shows.
here. Good
Go ahead.
stuff. Last
Sorry.
one here, superpower. What would you be your 101 superpower if you can have one?
I'd go super strength, mostly because I'm a practical guy. Like if you want to pick up, like, oh, my couch needs to be moved, or just pick it up and like, but then also like I don't know, I would just see in cases where if I work outside, if my truck gets stuck, well, I'll just lift it out of this mud
Lift
hole.
it up.
But yeah, that's probably way too practical instead of fun. But I bet you could do some weird tricks like that.
I'm not
doing
saying you
stuff.
made super strength boring, but I respect it.
But it's definitely useful.
But it's the most realistic use of it.
Yeah.
I
like,
mean, I could probably
move
find
my
like,
couch. I'm
things
going to be a hero. No, I just want to move couches. That's all I want to do.
I mean, if I wanted to go, save somebody, or keep a plane from taking off, to make sure the bad guy doesn't leave and bomb someplace, I could do that. But in the meantime, I could also just be like, I think I need to pick something up real quick and just move that. So
good stuff. All right, let's get into some football stuff.
We got breaking news.
News and notes from around the league.
Did you say we have breaking news?
We do have breaking news. Chris Godwin signed a 3-year, $60 million deal with 40 guaranteed.
Nice. So I guess
Cool.
they're not franchising him now, I guess.
like the Mike Williams deal.
That's not a bad deal at all.
It's not a bad
No.
deal at all. No, definitely not. Definitely not. Keep that for a while. All right, news and notes is brought to you by Fantasy. It's fantasy football without the waivers, no worrying about injuries. With the best ball leagues, you get to do the fun part, and that's draft. It's like a mock draft you can win money from. Download Underdog Fantasy app for iOS or Android. Use our promo code GF2 and get a 100% deposit match up to $100. For as low as $3, you can join one of our Going for Two leagues or one of the hundreds of contests in the lobby. All you got to do is download the app, use promo code GF2, and get your deposit match up to $100. All right, so we're expanding the news and notes tonight to pretty much an entire segment because it's basically all news and notes tonight. And we'll kick up with a few things that had happened before our last or after our last show. That it's kind of old news at this point, but we're going to go to Tom Brady returns here, Ryan. That happened after our podcast last week. Give me your thoughts on Tom Brady returning, and did you expect it for one?
I'm going to say like 30% expected it. Like the way it happened was suspect. But from a fantasy perspective, it's wheels up for everything in that offense again. Like wherever you had Godwin and Mike Evans ranked before he retired in Dynasty or redraft, they're staying right there, especially since they're both signed. Like nothing changed. Even if they dipped a little, you just move them right back up. Whoever their running back's going to be, whether it's going to be Lenny coming back or whoever, I'm all in on it. I don't know about his new toy and Russell Gage, what I'm going to do with him yet. Probably wide receiver 3. I'm still not super excited. I think he's more DFS guy. But for the big guys, it's wheels up, man. The NFC's trash just in general now, and they should cruise through a lot of it, especially in their division.
Yeah, I agree 100%. What about your thoughts, Garrett? What are your thoughts on Tom Brady coming back here?
As odd as this is going to sound, I was a little disappointed that he came back just because I finally reconciled that he was gone, because I've not really had a league without Tom Brady since I've been alive. And I was just like, wow, this is weird. He's gone. Okay. I reconciled with that. I was okay. And then now he's back. I'm like, great. Now I got to go through this again. But yeah, of course, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin definitely get huge bumps. And I don't think Leonard Fournette has signed anything.
He's still free
returning.
agent.
So he's okay. It wouldn't surprise me if he comes back. And if he does, then we're probably drafting him, I'd say RB2 at least.
Yeah.
If
not
RB1. But go ahead.
No, so wherever people are drafting them, it's going to be too late. You're getting no value. Because you're right. You said RB2, and that's probably. I bet he gets drafted as a late RB2 because we think he's older than he is, and
there's
just this weird bias against him. He's been great, so he's going to be a value.
Yep.
If he's
Yeah,
injured.
and yeah, like you were saying, Ryan, I think that what is it? Isn't Rashad Perriman coming back, and then Russell Gage is there or something, and just
Oh,
the
I missed Perryman.
yeah, they're all just kind of just there. Like I don't really consider them much for fantasy purposes, but everybody else, yeah, game on.
Gronk might come back too now.
Yeah, I
That's
would
true.
imagine he would. Yeah, I imagine he would.
They said that earlier today.
Yeah, my thoughts on Tom Brady is just I found it weird. Like Tom Brady's the guy that's kind of like he's not indecisive. Like I almost feel like he did this on purpose. Like he wanted to create this sort of media thing because he isn't one of those players. Like Brett Favre was always indecisive. I'm going to retire, but not going to retire. You know, kind of threatening it constantly. And I didn't think Brady would come back after he had decided to leave. But 40 days later, he's back in the NFL. And I got screwed in one of my best ball leagues because I was literally on deck. I was, the guy before me was on the clock. Superflex league. Tom Brady news gets announced. Of course, he drafts Tom Brady. It's like the 11th or 12th round. He gets Tom Brady in Superflex best ball league. So I was kind of pissed about that too. I was like, really? You couldn't wait just 10 more minutes until he picked and I can get Tom Brady? But yeah, I agree with I agree with both of you. I mean, it's wheels up for Godwin, Evans, wherever you had him before. Tom Brady retired, right back to where they were. Both of them are going to be top options there for sure. All right, let's get into some of these other free agent signings here. And I want to just group all these together. This next one here with the Jags spending spree. They went all in on some players that kind of made you scratch your head a little bit. Christian Kirk, it's a big deal. They signed to a 1-year deal. Zay Jones, Brandon Sheriff, the offensive line, which they probably do need offensive line. But I'm going to go to you first, Garrett, on this thought. Like as far as, the Jaguars and what they're doing here with these players. I mean, all of them are good players, but none of them, I think, are players that are going to be changing the way that they play the game. What do you think?
Yeah, after thinking about it for a little bit, it kind of reminds me of the Patriots last year signing most every free agent that they could possibly get their hands on.
Right.
And where none of them were game-changing players, you got Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne and Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, where like all those guys, they're good in their own right. Some, less than others, but it just, none of them were needle movers. And that's kind of what I get with the Jaguars and their signings. Evan Ingram, he's athletic, but can he catch? He's struggled with drops over his career. And you've got Marvin Jones there. He's solid. Christian Kirk, I think he's best suited as a wide receiver 2 on a team versus a 1. I think he can be more than a 3 like he was in Arizona, but I don't think he could be a 1.
Yeah, he's probably going to be the 1 there, most likely.
Mm-hmm. And then Zay Jones, he started to come on last year at the very end of the season. He actually, I think it was over the final 6 games, he actually had more receiving yards than Renfro.
Had more targets too.
Yeah, and more targets, and Renfro just had all the touchdowns. So for fantasy, it didn't really matter. But as far as actual football production, Jones was starting to come alive. So I don't know, maybe they see some potential in him.
Ryan, what are your thoughts? I know you were big on Christian Kirk there. I know that is this a disappointing landing spot for him?
Yes, to me it is. I mean, I love this. I'm gonna say it first. I love this for Trevor Lawrence, but
Agreed.
This, like, the other than the money, just throwing that out there because that's just absolutely absurd. But I don't understand like their plan with this offense because you have Laviska Shenault still there, who played 52% of the snaps last year in the slot, which was 16th in the league. You have Christian Kirk, who also played 49% of the slots in the slot. So both these guys were lined up there majority of the time. You're somewhere around 20 for Zay, who's kind of in that same mold. Marvin Jones is the only one who's different. Then you have a move piece in Travis Etienne, who they kind of talked about using the way that Shenault is. This whole thing is just a cluster. Fantasy-wise, outside of Trevor Lawrence, I have no idea how this offense is going to work. And who's going to get the ball, if it's going to be a week-to-week thing, if somebody's going to separate, because I don't see any guy who's really going to. I think it's going to be a nightmare for fantasy.
100% agree. I think
I'm
Trevor
steering
Lawrence
clear.
is the only one.
Like, I could see 3 guys getting between 650 and 850 yards,
Yeah.
but it could be in the ugliest way where you don't want it in fantasy because it's going to be Christian Kirk, 5 catches, 130 yards one week, 1 catch, 32 the next.
Yep.
Where Chenault does that. It's going to be a friggin' nightmare. I want no parts of anything but other Lawrence. Ingram, I have a slight inkling because there's nobody who's really a red zone threat because these are all kind of smaller receivers. So I kind of dig him there, but I'm still not confident in it.
I like Dan Arnold on Jacksonville once he comes back from injury and whatnot. But
yeah, I mean, he had a good little piece of a season last year. I remember he was a big DFS guy there for a while because he was like super cheap and he was getting a shit ton of targets. And Ingram, I mean, after his rookie season, he's disappointed pretty much every year after that. So let's see what he can do with some new scenery and see if he can, get that potential back that he had after his rookie season. Let's move over to your neck of the woods, Ryan. Mitch Trubisky with the Steelers here, and I'm more worried about the ancillary pieces around them. With Deontay Johnson and Claypool and those guys. What does he do for those guys?
Honestly, I don't think they're going to have a big dip from what they had for the Steelers or with Ben Roethlisberger last year, because Ben Roethlisberger was kind of washed and not really completing passes down the field. His yards per completion was 6.1. I'm pretty sure him and Mitch Trubisky were 31 and 32 in the league, when they were the year before. So I don't think it's a big difference. I think he's a little bit stronger on, which could actually help Claypool. So I think that's good, but I think Trubisky's just a Band-Aid while they draft somebody and build him up.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that as well. I think it's a Band-Aid, he's a bridge.
Yeah, however I viewed Deontay Johnson and Claypool before, it didn't change that much for me. But I'm going to be curious if they draft a quarterback round 1, which I just have this inkling that they do, because they may be able to take a chance like a Malik Willis or something, and that could be the big needle movers who they draft, or if they draft somebody this year.
Yeah, good call. What about you, Garrett? Any thoughts on the ancillary pieces there in Steelers with the Trubisky move?
I'm kind of like Ryan, where they didn't really move all that much for me. I already had Deontay Johnson really high up my dynasty rankings. Now, as far as redraft goes, it's a little bit different. Where if we were going into this next season with Mason Rudolph or a rookie quarterback, they would go down a little bit. But with the veteran like Mr. Trubisky, who has supported guys like Allen Robinson and gotten him to fantasy success, I do like that move, and it gives me a little bit of more confidence this year than I would have otherwise. But as far as dynasty and the future goes, they haven't really moved all that much.
Yeah, if Mason Rudolph was in there, it's everybody's down because he's garbage.
Yeah, I agree. And Mr. Trubisky, like you mentioned, Allen Robinson there, and that's definitely key because he gave him a ton of targets. And really, if you own Deontay Johnson, you just want targets. That's all you want. Give me a ton of targets. I don't care how good they are, what quarterback they're coming from. If he throws 2 picks, throw them my way. Who cares? Give me 13, 14 targets a game, and I'll be happy. I do think it helps Claypool a little bit more because I do think he's got a bigger arm than Roethlisberger did toward the end of his career. So I think if they throw the ball down the field, you got a better chance of getting the ball to Claypool with some 50-50 balls down the field, which Big Ben almost never threw in those last couple of years there. So I think Claypool's, if anybody moves up, it's Claypool for me.
I'm curious with Claypool and him. That's a good way. Claypool might see more targets just because of the simple fact that Allen Robinson is a bigger bodied receiver. He throwing to that big target. That could be a good thing. And it might be good for Freiermuth, who we kind of just forget about.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. All right, let's move over to the Cardinals here and talk about their backfield. They re-signed James Conner, and then they ship off Chase Edmonds to the Dolphins. We'll talk on the Conner side here. So now I know Chase Edmonds for him to compete with. He had a crazy amount of touchdowns last year that I think there'll probably be some regression there. What are your thoughts on Conner this year?
Dude, I think Conner's in good shape this year. I know he had crazy touchdowns last year. He could still have pretty high touchdown rate because this is a high-powered offense, and they give him the ball in the red zone. He didn't get those touchdowns off of flukes. It's because they got down there and they pounded the rock with James Conner. I don't think Eno Benjamin's gonna really dig into his production that much. I bet they draft somebody, and that could worry me a little bit depending on who they get, what way they get there. But as of now, he's easily in RB2 with low end RB1 potential. Like, it's a really good situation. A red zone threat and a high powered offense, I'll buy that all day, and you're buying it super cheap.
Yeah, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he had some catches last year too. I don't know if he had a ton of catches, but I do remember some of them. He had like a one-handed catch.
I think it was like 50. I think he caught something like 50 balls, and he's done that in Pittsburgh too. He's a good pass catcher.
Yep. And now he has to have Edmonds there to compete with. What are your thoughts here on Edmonds? I mean, sorry, on Connor, Garrett.
Yeah, I mean, I like Connor. Not too much to add from Ryan, but yeah, I think he's probably still an RB1, especially if he can stay healthy and they feed him like they did last year. The touchdown efficiency might come down a little bit, but if they give him all the volume, because I think it took him a few weeks to kind of ramp up to what he was doing. So if they give him the volume, the touchdowns may still be there. He just won't be as efficient as he was last year.
Fair point.
But yeah, he did have a lot of catches. I'm trying to pull it up now, see how many catches he had. But
I was afraid to pull it up because my internet.
He got 37 for 375 and 3 last year.
Okay, yeah, that's not a bad volume.
No, not at all.
Especially when your backfield mate is known as a receiving back, so he took some of that volume away from him.
Exactly.
He had 237 touches last year.
That's
and that was splitting carry.
Yep. That's good. Let's flip it over to the Chase, and I'm going to go ahead and tie in the news that we had today as well. And I'll go to you first, Garrett. Chase Edmonds to the Dolphins, and then Raheem Mostert signed to the Dolphins today too. It's kind of puts a little bit of damper on the Chase Edmonds truthers there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it sounds like Mike McDaniel. I can't remember. I can never remember which one is the S. But it sounds like Mike McDaniel wants to. I mean, he's bringing the 49er system to Miami, which is fantastic if you're, say, Jalen Waddle, who's going to get targets and most likely some rushing attempts. But if you're a running back, it's the efficiency is lucrative, but like the opportunity isn't as much. And I think last year with Elijah Mitchell is just because that's the only guy they had. They didn't want to use Trey Sermon for, I'm not sure why, but they just didn't.
Yeah.
But you didn't have, I don't think they had JaMychal Hasty for a lot of the year. They didn't have Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson was out. So you basically had Elijah Mitchell, and that's it. Now, he did great, and I'm not going to take that away from him. But in that system, they like using multiple running backs, and now having Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert, you're probably going to see a thunder or lightning kind of, or, well, they're both pretty fast, so maybe lightning and lightning, but one is catching passes and one isn't.
Ryan, what are your thoughts here? I know you're disappointed to hear with the Raheem Mostert news today.
I want to know why the Miami Dolphins draft or sign a fullback and have four pass catching wide, or like 4 small running backs. Like Chase Edmonds is 209, he's the biggest. Raheem Mostert's 200. You still or Duke Johnson's there, Miles Gaskin. They just collect these like little backs.
Yeah. Well, if you have 4 of them, then you got one guy that can make the whole season without getting hurt.
Well, no, all 4 of them. Well, yeah, that's probably right, but it's gonna be a time shift from hell. It's gonna be so bad. I've had the most faith in Mostert getting work, but not that much. Like, I don't know if he's gonna be a 200 attempt guy. Huh?
Watch them draft Kyron Williams.
And you're right. Miami probably will draft somebody. Hopefully, it's somebody like it'll probably be something weird like how they took Trey Sermon. It'll probably be like Brian Robinson, like this big back who everyone gets super excited about. Then they're gonna say, "Oh, let's just treat him Mostert," and we're all gonna hate everybody.
Yep.
Like it's. I'm already prepared for the hype and the letdown because it's
Raheem Mostert is like that. Very close to the last round best ball pick because you hope that he has that game where he has 2 touches and like both of them are like 50-yard touchdowns that he gets, once a year. He does that, it seems. Otherwise, I don't want to touch his backfield at all. I don't.
In the comments, Pierce would make sense there. Like, there's all those. Jerome Ford makes sense there. Like, a back who can take a workload. This is a nightmare. Like you said, Waddle's the only one I feel good about on that team.
All right,
Cedric
next
Wilson
one
might be interesting.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I don't know. No, it's all good. You may have been mentioning this because while we're on Miami free agent, Cedric Wilson might be interesting as well. But Waddle's really the only one that I'm comfortable with. But if you want to take a flyer on Cedric Wilson, that could pay off as well.
Cedric Wilson, career 2 good plays a game guy.
Exactly. I mean, sometimes that's all you need, especially in DFS, which is fantastic.
Definitely. So let's go ahead and talk about those Cowboys then, because we got Cedric Wilson to the Dolphins. They re-signed Gallup, and of course they traded Amari Cooper to the Browns. So basically it's CeeDee Lamb and a bunch of guys. I'm gonna go to you first, Garrett. Give me your thoughts on all 3 receivers and their sort of value now with Gallup, Wilson, Cooper, and then CeeDee Lamb a little bit as well.
Gallup I like as the probably not number 2 target on the Cowboys. I've always been a fan of his. Like, before the Amari Cooper trade, I was working on something to tweet out, just kind of comparing their stats when they were on the field together. And Gallup actually played really well compared to, the stats that Cooper was putting up. But because people are all up in arms about them getting rid of Cooper, but Gallup had similar production.
Yeah.
So I like that. Unfortunately, it sounds like, or my guess is that he's going to be missing at least a small chunk of the season with the torn ACL that he suffered in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But as far as Amari Cooper side of things, I mean, I like it in the fact that he's now the only receiver on the Browns, really, other than Donovan Peoples-Jones, who I think could take a step forward. I'm a Browns fan, by the way.
Oh, you poor bastard.
I know. It sucks. It sucks at times. But, yeah, I think DPJ could take a step forward in his 3rd year because I think he had some flashes last year. But for the most part, Cooper is the one in this offense. And if he can maintain a decent target share, I did some sort of like quick study where like in each game last year where Cooper had like 6+ targets, he had over 18 PPR points, but in games where he had less, it was closer to 7. So, and 6 to 7 targets per game is about a 21 to 25% target share in the Cleveland offense last year. And if he's the number 1, I don't see why he couldn't
that's a good point.
hit that mark.
That's a good point. Ryan, what are your thoughts here with Cooper, Gallup, and Cedric Wilson?
Cedric Wilson's the man. Not that I'm excited about him. Like, I'm not going to really have him in fantasy teams. Michael Gallup, I like him. Gallup long term. I agree with what Garrett said. I think he's a solid wide receiver 2 on that team, and their 2nd or 3rd target. I think Schultz is still going to get a lot of volume. Holy cow! Twitter makes me so angry with the CeeDee Lamb hate lately. Like, jeez Louise, like, he's going to be a top 5 receiver this year. You can mark that down in writing right now. He's going to get crazy volume. But on the one that's kind of exciting, I don't understand, is what the negative connotations towards Amari Cooper is right now. Amari Cooper has done nothing but produce his entire career. He produced with Derek Carr back in 2015 through 2018. Wasn't the quarterback that he was right now. He was a lot closer to Baker Mayfield is. And he was still an 1,100-yard guy, 1,000-yard guy pretty consistently. And he's going to go to Cleveland. And like you said, a 21% market share is going to be nothing for him. And the Browns passed less last year because Baker was hurt and beat the hell. So they couldn't do that as much. And everybody and their talent surrounding him wasn't great. Amari Cooper's a huge upgrade. He's going to see 120+ targets this year. Like,
easy.
He's a buy.
Mm-hmm.
He's such a buy. Like, out of anybody on new teams, it's Amari Cooper. And he's proved he can jump onto a new team and a new system and produce because he's a fantastic route runner and a smart football player. So he'll be able to jump right into that offense.
Yeah, I agree.
It's such a screaming value right now. Like, I don't understand the hate towards it.
And it's funny, too, because I said this before on the podcast, but when players get traded to different teams, especially when they get traded multiple times.
It's normally not good.
Well, not only that, but we age them in our head. We think they're older than they actually are. I think what is Mark for 28 years old?
He's
28. I
He's
mean,
such an old. He's
I
an
feel
old
like
28.
he's old, but he's been on 3 different teams now. He feels older than 28. He feels like he's like in his
He's also been in the league since he was 21. Like
Yeah.
that's a lot. You players start that young. Like I feel like Juju Smith-Schuster's 40 because he came in when he was 19. Like it's just that's how it is.
Yeah, it's like I agree. I think he's still within his prime. He's not old by any means. I think he's still going to be a good receiver there. So he'll be what they want OBJ to be.
He'll get between 1,000 and 1,200 yards and 6 to 8 touchdowns, and that's completely fine in fantasy. He's a wide receiver. He's gonna put up Amari Cooper numbers.
Let's roll right into Deshaun Watson news here. And Garrett, since you're the Browns fan, I'm sure you've heard the rumors that they're trying to go after Deshaun Watson, and now they want an adult quarterback, not Baker Mayfield.
Dude, that was the funniest
Deshaun Watson is the adult quarterback that you want in that scenario. But
yikes!
What are your thoughts here?
I mean, from a football standpoint, it's tough to tiptoe around the legal side of things with all that swirling around. But from the football side of things, I like that. I know there's a lot of people, defending Baker, at least among Browns Twitter that I've seen. But I like Deshaun Watson. I think
the 3 truthers left of Baker Mayfield.
I think he's a better quarterback than Mayfield and gives him a better chance to succeed. I've seen, PFF had something out where like Baker actually ranked pretty well as far as grades go in his first 3 years. And then just last year, because of injuries, just plummeted. So I think last year wasn't necessarily fair to evaluate Baker, but it's so tough to guess what he can do because you can see flashes. You've seen him have stretches of games like the 2020 season where like the last 8 games or so, he just turned it on and went nuts leading up to that playoff appearance and win. But then, rookie one, of course he has his rookie year where he lights the world on fire. Then the second year he crashes down because he has a bad coach. The third year he's got to learn a new coaching system. He catches fire, but then his 4th year he gets hurt. So how do you evaluate a quarterback like that? And in fairness, I was like, okay, I think he deserves another year to be evaluated. Like, let's get you healthy with Stefanski's system. You're more acquainted with it now and give you a shot. But I'm not going to complain from a football perspective if they get Deshaun Watson.
Let me ask you this. Let's say they don't get Deshaun Watson, but all this rumor about getting Deshaun Watson is now sort of soured Baker Mayfield. Now what? You just go back to Baker Mayfield and say, oh, sorry, we were just trying to get Watson, but now we're going to go back to you because we have nobody else.
Yeah, that is tough. Again, I'm fine with Baker being there. I'm not, of course, the one that's calling up Deshaun Watson saying, hey, I'd like to come, I'd like you to come up here and meet us so we can trade for you. And then having our other quarterback being over there, like the, like that one meme where the guy's doing like, and looking at, you got the other girls like Baker's doing this, but
yeah, that's exactly right.
But yeah, I don't know how they reconcile that relationship. If it's broken, I think he still is somewhat connected to the fans, and I don't think he has any will towards them. I honestly didn't read his letter. It was TLDR, kind of like Kyler Murray's thing, but
it was very nice.
But of what I did read of it, I was like, oh, okay, this wasn't too bad. Yeah, I'm guessing you try to mend that relationship with Baker and move on, but I don't know how you go about doing that from a front office perspective.
Yeah.
It does sound like, though,
we know Baker's personality too. I mean, he's not exactly. I mean, he's not the adult quarterback that they're talking about. So, who knows how he's going to react? I mean, like you look at last year with Jimmy G and what he went through with Trey Lance being there. I mean, he was the ultimate professional with it. I mean, never once said anything negative and didn't want to trade. And I don't see Baker being that guy. If this doesn't work out and they don't get Deshaun Watson, I could see him asking for a trade or making it very difficult for the Browns to sort of reconcile this whole thing.
It sounds like he may go to the Saints. I saw something that was like within an hour. At one point earlier this evening, like the Saints Super Bowl odds went from 50-1 to 20-1.
Yeah, someone knows
whether someone knows either someone knows something or someone is heavily betting that he goes to the Saints. And do take that information, do with it what you will.
All right, let's go to you, Ryan, real quick. Give me Deshaun Watson's other landing spots. Like, what situations do you like the best there? Like, Panthers, Falcons, Saints.
If I were to bet, I think it's gonna be Panthers. It makes sense. It makes sense. I think they have the most pieces to move. They have that number 8 pick. They have Christian McCaffrey, who the rumors are is a big piece of it. I think they have a lot to move. He has final say. He went to Clemson, so North Carolina is a good place for him. And fixing his image, I'm sure, is a huge thing. And going to an area where he's already beloved because he got them a national championship is a really good way to do it. I think that's a good one. I think that and Atlanta are the 2 top spots. Even though I don't know what Atlanta has to give, what anybody really wants. But that's why I think Carolina's the spot. But
yeah, Carolina makes a lot of sense. The Saints make sense from the aspect that, I don't know. I guess because I'm still stuck in the Sean Payton era, and they've been a contending team for a while. Maybe that's gone now. Maybe they're no longer going to be that team. And in my head, I'm still thinking that would be a good landing spot. But if you think about it, what do they really have there? I mean, they got Michael Thomas, Kamara, and a whole lot of issues, right?
yeah, I mean,
So maybe you're right. Maybe it is.
And why would you want to go to a team with a brand new coach in that cap hell? The idea of Baker Mayfield to New Orleans, I don't know how I haven't seen that. I love that, by the way. It makes sense
Baker
because
to New Orleans, yeah.
I love that. Yeah,
because
they have I thought you said that. Like you said, you like that idea.
I mean, that wouldn't be bad, but I didn't say that. No, I did mention something about New Orleans Super Bowl odds going up.
Oh, that's what I thought because you said Baker with it. And I'm like, I like that idea because they have a tight end and quarterback.
Yeah.
True. This is true.
And that would make sense.
Probably not back.
There's not that many places he could go who's really going to need a quarterback like this if that's that damaged.
Agreed. All right, we talked about Deshaun Watson enough here. Let's hit on some of these other smaller things. Something that happened today real quick. Give me your thoughts on O.J. Howard to the Bills, Ryan.
So I don't love it because I think it'll just be he'll do just enough to make Dawson Knox annoying. I don't think he dips into his production. I think it's Dawson Knox's job, but I think he's going to do just enough to make it inconsistent and annoying.
Every touchdown he catches, the Dawson Knox owner is going to be pissed. It could be 3 touchdowns, but they'll be pissed. There you go.
But they're going to be at the times where it matters the most for you in fantasy. Exactly.
Yep, exactly.
From a football perspective, it's fantastic because he's a really good blocker, and they can run 2 tight end sets. And if they ever figure out how to get a running game, they'll be great. But fantasy-wise, it's just kind of a nuisance.
Yeah, I agree there.
I wanted O.J. Howard to happen so bad. I really did, but I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I drafted him in my dynasty league, when he came out that year, and I kept hoping that I held him for so long. I mean, I held out so long on that guy, and finally had to end up cutting him because I was like, all right, he got outplayed and outclassed by a Cameron Brate. It's time to cut bait. So let's go to you, Garrett, on this next one. Julio Jones being cut is now a free agent. So first, give me your thoughts on the Titans in general without Julio Jones, and then where do you think Jones might land?
How ironic it would be if he returned to the Falcons because they have no wide receivers. I mean,
good point.
Nobody.
Another reason why Deshaun Watson won't go to Atlanta.
Yeah, not saying that he will, but I mean that would be an interesting destination for him, and it would make sense because they have nobody else. I don't think he's familiar with the coaching staff because it's new. I don't know. However many are still there when he left or from when he left. But as far as the players go, he knows Matt Ryan. They have chemistry, and they don't have anybody else to throw to other than Kyle Pitts. So that would be an interesting spot. And as far as the Titans go, unless they draft somebody or pick somebody up, it's just basically going to be A.J. Brown and nobody else.
Nobody else, yeah.
Like he's going to get so many targets.
Yeah, there's the DFS legend that's the number 2 receiver now, Westbrook Akini, is that his name? He had that one big team, and everybody thought he was going to be a thing. And I still own him in one of my leagues. He's sitting in my taxi squad, so I'm hoping he becomes a thing, but I know better. I think it's going to be A.J. Brown and
Jeff,
and a whole lot of nothing.
Jeff, do you remember your love for old Titan receiver Corey Davis and how unrealistic that is? This is more unrealistic.
Yes. Hey, I can hold out hope. There's that sliver of hope. So my thoughts on Julio. Let me see what you think. This Ryan, Julio goes to Dallas. I mean, they're without Gallup. They lost Wilson. They lost Cooper.
That's good.
Jerry Jones.
That's fine.
Been known to get those older guys in there just to kind of fill a spot for a while. And
yeah, that's fine. I mean, I honestly don't want him in fantasy at all.
Nothing to do with him at all. Even he's always being drafted like in round 700.
I think he's I mean, everybody has a price. Every single person has a price. But I'm leaning more towards I feel like he's washed. Yeah. And it hurts me to say it. Like you don't get cut from a team with no wide receivers if you're not washed.
Yep. I agree. And I said he was washed last year and I got killed for it. I didn't have him in my top 12 receivers and I put it out on Twitter and everyone's like, what about Julio? What about Julio? And I'm like, Julio is now an older receiver. He's been injured quite a bit. I mean, he came into the league injured for that. And then he's been injured, and he didn't have a good season. And I was like, why would I put him in my top 12? I don't think he was even made in my top 24.
Just a hater, dude.
All right, let's talk about another receiver, DJ Shark. Oh, yeah, Bears. Yeah, when Robinson leaves eventually, hopefully, he goes somewhere good. Let's talk about DJ Shark going to the Lions here, Garrett. Give me your thoughts on that. Kind of an under-the-radar move. Shark's been injured all year, and we didn't hear a whole lot about him. But what are your thoughts there with Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Swift and all that? How do you think he fits in?
I mean, he's kind of an outside guy, so I think that's a need that they needed to fill. They've got Josh Reynolds there, and they just signed him to a contract, and you've also got Chark, of course, just not coming in, Amon-Ra in the slot. So, I mean, they've got their positions pretty well filled with Swift in the backfield and Hawkinson at tight end. So you've got your starting, 3 wide receivers, tight end, and running back. Overall, I mean, I like it. I don't think it's necessarily a needle mover in fantasy for anybody. I mean, maybe you knock down Amon-Ra like a spot,
a smidgen.
It's a spot or two. It's not going to change them all that much.
Yeah, I think in a way it almost helps like Hawkinson and Amon-Ra because he can take the top of the defense and sort of get deep, and that's going to give that little soft middle area a little bit more space.
I was just going to say that I think it helps them because Shark's not a volume guy. He takes top of defense, and that's going to take double teams away from those two. I think it helps everybody else on that offense. I mean, not him because Goff can't really do that.
Yeah, but I think fantasy-wise, I don't think it helps him at all. I mean, I think there's spots he could have gone working better. Yeah,
and
agreed.
There's a chance, even though nobody in the entire world mocks it, there's a chance they can get a quarterback.
Yeah,
like it's in 0 mock drafts, but a QB needy team picks 2. It's in the realm of possibilities.
Yep, agreed. All right, let's talk about a few guys that have not signed yet. There's still a couple big names out there. We'll hit on a couple of them. I wrote them all down here, but we'll just hit on a few of them. And the first one we kind of talked about a little bit, Allen Robinson. What do you think happens here with Allen Robinson, Garrett?
I'm not sure. Like, it's a question of, like, do people think that he's washed? Do they believe what he said about him being phased out of the offense by shoot, I can't even remember the guy's name, the coach. That's how much I wanted to block it out of my mind. But no, was he actually phased out of the offense? Was it just was an injury. I don't know what's playing into the fact that he's not being signed in the first couple of days of tampering and free agency.
And he's not even being talked about, which is weird. I haven't even talked about going anywhere.
The only thing I saw was that he might return to the Jaguars, and that was either right before Christian Kirk signed.
Yeah, I can't see that happening now. They went on that spending spree. I don't know if they could. I don't know. Maybe they could. Maybe they could squeeze him in there and have him in there. What about your thoughts, Ryan? Do you think there's any spot that he lands that?
Dude, it's crazy. I've never seen like the top receiver get this little talk. Like nobody. Like you said, nobody in the world's talking about it. Atlanta makes sense because, like you said, they don't have a receiver. Yeah. Maybe the Patriots. We've heard that one.
Yeah. That.
Jets.
Do the Saints have the cap?
No.
To do?
They
I don't think they do.
They cleared up $80 million in cap space, and they're still over the cap.
And they're still over. I did see that. That's crazy.
That's not exaggeration.
That's crazy.
Oh my goodness.
Honestly, there's a chance we're waiting for that quarterback trade to go through before we see an Allen Robinson landing spot.
Mm-hmm.
Think he's waiting for Watson to land, and then he's gonna go wherever Watson goes.
It might not even be that. It might just be he wants to see, because if Watson gets traded, that changes the landscape for multiple teams.
Yep.
Like somebody's getting a high draft pick. He's there, which means another quarterback has to go somewhere. I think it changes a lot. So I think that's a part of it.
Would he fit with the Colts with him and Pittman? Are they different enough?
I'd like that.
But they don't have a quarterback. Why would you put yourself through as Allen Robinson?
Same situation again.
Why? God, no.
Maybe he likes it. If he picked the Bears, traded to the Bears, he picked them.
Yeah, you know who I'd like him to go to is the Jets.
Okay.
I would say I love Zach Wilson. I think Zach Wilson has it. And I think he'd be a really great piece to pair with Elijah Moore. But I honestly have and they have money. So I have no idea, but I like that for him. But I think he's waiting.
All right, let's talk about the other guy that we didn't think was going to be a free agent, but he got cut. He's not a free agent now, Jarvis Landry. I'll go to you first this time, Ryan. Give me your thoughts on Landry and where he might end up.
I keep seeing the inklings of him to the Bills. And I really like that because Cole Beasley's kind of worn out his welcome a little bit between just aging, regressing, and just being annoying. Emmanuel Sanders is kind of
might retire,
and he's getting closer to that wash thing, which opens up a big hole in the slot with those two guys gone. And paired with Diggs, McKenzie, and God, I blanked on his name. Everybody's favorite. And Gabe Davis, everybody's favorite guy who's gonna let him down next year. He's the perfect fit there. Like he'd be a perfect safety valve for him. I really like that landing spot for him. And he'd get tons of fantasy value because they love that slot receiver in Buffalo. And he's better than both of those guys.
Yeah. Is Beasley a free agent? For some reason I thought he was, but I haven't heard anything about him. So maybe he's not a free agent. Maybe they have him on one more year,
sure.
I think.
Oh, look. But
all right, we'll go to you, Garrett. In the meantime, we'll try to hit one more of these free agents here. Let's talk about a running back. Let's talk about Melvin Gordon, who we don't think will be back with Denver now. And he just seems to go places and be productive. Is there anywhere that he can go right now you think that would increase his fantasy value other than going back to the Broncos?
I mean, since we're on the subject of Atlanta all the time, then, they don't have anybody in that backfield other than unless they re-sign Patterson. I don't think Mike Davis is back, but even if he was, it's not going to mean anything to me. So I've heard that speculation that he could go to Atlanta. I've heard the Chargers floated back, like him returning to the Chargers and being a 1-2 punch again with Eckler. But yeah, it's tough finding
at least a
fantasy spot.
I think there's places that make sense NFL wise. For fantasy, it's a little bit tougher. What about you, Ryan? What thoughts on Gordon?
Real quick, Beasley has one more year on his contract, and it's very cuttable. But I think Gordon's got to the point in his career where he's just a high-end backup.
Yeah.
Like, I think Tennessee's a really good landing spot for him because they lost Donta Foreman, who was a more than capable backup for Derrick Henry. Someone like Melvin Gordon can come in if Derrick Henry got hurt and do 70% of what he does, 60% of what he does, and that's still good fantasy production. And he could be somebody who can come in while he's healthy and hopefully stays healthy and spell him and keep him fresh. Like, I think that's a place like that where he's a high-end backup would be really good for him. And I think that's how the NFL's going to view him because you've seen a slow decline in running backs at his age just don't have value.
Yeah.
Whether he's good or not, they just don't have value.
Yep. All right, so that wraps up our free agent talk there. We went a little bit long there, but I kind of figured we might. So we're going to hit on some of these rookie and sophomore ADPs from Underdog Fantasy really quick. We'll just go position by position, and I'm going to go back and forth between the two of you. And just give me a couple things that you see as far as what surprises you. Are there any ADPs that kind of stand out on guys that you thought would be lower or higher? And just some things you noticed there. So let's go to the quarterbacks first because I have one that stands out to me right away when I look at it. But I want your thoughts first on this one, Garrett. And here I'll give for the audio people. I'm gonna give the top quarterbacks here. So Trey Lance is the. I'm sorry, is that the first one? Yeah. So it's Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence is number 3, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Malik Willis is the first rookie on there. And then Davis Mills, Kenny Pickett are the order that those quarterbacks go in. What are your thoughts here, Garrett?
Right now, until Garoppolo is moved, because I haven't heard a bunch of buzz, at least here recently, unless maybe the Colts trade for Garoppolo. But until he's moved, I like Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence, even though Lance is a higher ceiling. I don't know. I'm much more of a guaranteed production guy, and I think Fields does have a similar ceiling to Lance, so I like him. I'm over him.
Yeah, that was my big one. Is Trey Lance being basically the 101 quarterback here? Trey Lance over Justin Fields, over Lawrence, over even a guy like Mac Jones who was productive, in the best ball type scenario. I think I would prefer the consistent production from Mac Jones over the chance that Lance becomes the next Konami code quarterback. That was one that stood out to me. What about you, Ryan? Anything here stand out to you other than Trey Lance and then the 101 spot there?
The Trey Lance is screaming to me like he's 4 or 5 spots too high for me.
Agreed.
Like I think he's a better prospect, but him and Malik Willis are similar situations to me. And Malik Willis hasn't been drafted yet.
Yeah, good point.
Unfortunately, that's just how I feel on this. I think he put last year's quarterbacks of Fields, Lawrence, and Zach Wilson in any order. I really do.
Yeah.
But Justin Fields hurts because they're not putting pieces around him. So I think he's dropping for me. I think Lawrence, as much as we've kind of just hated on what the Jags are doing, they're putting the right pieces around him. And he's probably going to be the top guy for me, followed by Zach Wilson, who they're also putting the right pieces around. And Mac Jones is so consistent in year 1. If they get Allen Robinson or somebody good in the draft, if they get a Drake London, a Garrett Wilson, somebody, he zooms up because he's such a perfect fit in that offense. Bill Belichick knows how to protect his quarterback. Even if he doesn't run, he can still produce. I feel more confident in that than Trey Lance. And out of the rookies, it's all landing spot dependent.
What is your thought on Davis Mills being higher than all the rookies except for Malik Willis? Are you okay with that?
Not really. I don't think he's going to be. I don't know if he's going to be. If he's starting next year, maybe. Him and Kenny Pickett really aren't super different to me. If he's starting, maybe Pickett's a little bit better, but we don't. There's a really good chance he gets another quarterback. As much as I hate to hear it. Because all these trade rumors, every trade consists of a quarterback.
Yep, agreed. All right, let's move into the running back rankings here. So this is, I'll give the order here. So Najee Harris is the 101 at running back, Javonte Williams, Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, Elijah Mitchell, Michael Carter, Kenneth Walker, Ramondre Stevenson, and then Spiller, Gainwell, and Rachaad White round out those top running backs there. Is there anything here that jumped out to you, Garrett, on these running backs?
Yeah, as far as the top goes, I'm pretty much good with it. Right now I have Spiller above Ramondre, mostly just because of potential, based on where he may land. And
Ramondre being that Pat's offense.
Yeah, and being a backup. Now, not to say that he's not good, but right now he's a backup, and Spiller could potentially be one in an offense. I'm not exactly sure. Like, Rachaad White's close. I'm not exactly sure what to do with him. It just kind of depends on how an NFL team values him. But you can go either way. I wouldn't be mad, depending on how depending on what you want. And yeah, White's way down in the ADP compared to Stevenson.
Yeah, that's a good call. Because I'm looking at Rachaad White and being below Gainwell too. That kind of stood out to me. I would have taken the upside of Rachaad White over Gainwell, who didn't do anything in year one. What are your thoughts, Ryan, here with the ADP here?
The top's fine. Like you said, the Stevenson thing, I'd rather have Spiller than him. Possibly Rachaad White. Possibly Jerome. I like Jerome Ford's not on this list. That bothers me a little bit. I think he's got a 3-down set and can move up there. And I'd rather have him than a good few of these guys. Michael Carter's seems a little bit high. I know he flashed last year, but there's a real good chance he's not alone in that backfield. They already brought back Sonny Michel. So I think he's a little high on it. Elijah Mitchell's still questioning me. I know he was great, but I don't trust your team. Like, I just don't trust San Francisco and their coaching staff and how they use running backs.
Mm-hmm.
And that would probably –
Go ahead.
What you say?
I was going to give my stat that I gave out in the preseason. Before this Elijah Mitchell thing, that the last 4 years, I guess now it would be 5 with Elijah Mitchell, the cheapest running back for the 49ers as far as ADP goes has been the top fantasy scorer for the last 4 years.
Yeah. And he's probably not whoever that's not on the team right now.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's very possible because it's happened every single year. I mean, 1 year it was Raheem Mostert. He was undrafted. He was a top guy. Then it was Jeff Wilson Jr. And then it was
guys,
every year.
I gotta grab a power cord. I'll be right back.
All right, you're good.
Yeah, it's gonna be like Ty Chandler, who they get in round 6 this year. So I think I'd probably take both Kenneth Walker and Isaiah Spiller over him. I'd probably flip-flop Gainwell and Hubbard as well, just because I think Philly's backfield's still a big question mark because I don't know if they know what they're doing there.
Agreed. Yeah,
So,
Gainwell that high up is kind of confusing.
Out of the top, it's really kind of bamboozled out of order.
All right, let's look at some of these receivers now. Obviously, Jamar Chase is the top, followed by Jalen Waddle. This is receivers and tight ends, by the way. This is how they do it on Underdog. So Kyle Pitts is the 3 there. Elijah Moore, Devonta Smith, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Burks is the first rookie to show up on here. Kadarius Toney, Garrett Wilson, Rashad Bateman. Anything stand up to you here, Ryan, on this ADP?
Yes, a lot different on the receiver. I feel like a lot more strong about how the receivers different here. I think Garrett Wilson should be right under Kyle Pitts ahead of Elijah Moore and Devonta Smith. I think he steps in as wide receiver 1 somewhere. Kadarius Toney's a little bit of a question mark for me. I'd probably move him down. Chris Olave, Drake London seem low. The fact Rondell Moore is ahead of Jameson Williams makes me want to just headbutt my desk. Oh my god, that's absolutely atrocious.
I didn't notice that one too. Now, granted, this is best ball. This is not dynasty, so they're thinking Williams is going to miss part of the season maybe, so they want Rondell Moore in his week 1 starter, I guess.
That's fine, but oh my god, I think Jameson Williams has a chance to be the best receiver in the draft class still once he gets back from injury. But Amon-Ra might be a little high. Like, I think we have a gap when these new receivers are coming in. I think we're really underselling this draft class, especially some of these guys like Garrett Wilson and Olave, who can come in and be impactful right away because they're such crisp route runners and like players who are polished, so they could be instant impact guys. I don't know. I see a lot of values here.
Yeah, I think Christian Watson is the one that kind of stood out to me. Like maybe they just haven't updated the ADP enough to raise him up, but I do think that he should be over a lot of the guys on this list.
I'm completely okay with where he is, except for the fact that Josh Palmer's ahead of them. That is just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
But I didn't even make it down to that second portion yet. But I like Palmer and Nico Collins. I don't think should be there yet. Where they are, they should be down under that Watson range. And the hate for Jahan Dotson makes me angry too.
Yeah, I figured you said something about Jahan Dotson being below Palmer. Maybe you just didn't see that. Garrett, anything on the receivers here that stood out to you?
Pulling up my rankings here real quick. Sorry. My computer just said, "Hey, I'm about to die." I was like, "Thanks."
I've been there before.
All right. So
luckily, my computer's so bad that it always has to be on charger.
I'm just with the injury. I don't know. Yeah, like you mentioned Jamison Williams. Like, I don't mind drafting him or drafting Rondale above just because it's a best ball and you're getting points throughout the year versus at the end. So you are kind of waiting on a few weeks to get him back, and then he's got to ramp up production because he's a rookie, so he's going to be coming in not only late, but it'll be his first NFL action. So it's going to take some time to get up to NFL speed. Now I don't mind drafting Rondale Moore above. It's just
it just feels gross.
Yeah, it does. I like Sky Moore a lot. Incoming class. And then I think George Pickens can actually be real interesting coming in.
He's gonna go in the second round, and people are gonna open their eyes up.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, he's one of those guys too that you're right. I mean, he can definitely move up this list pretty easily.
Yeah, it all depends on landing spot. But yeah, I think I like him. I as far as ADP goes, I'm pretty good with where he's being drafted. What was it Calvin Austin from? Was it Memphis? Right?
Wait, is he on this list? Did I miss him on this list?
He's not being drafted.
Yeah, he's on the list.
He has 0 ADP.
I mean, I think that would be something that would land somewhere that'll change. I think.
I love Calvin Austin, but fantasy-wise, especially redraft, I don't know, man. Like, it's a stretch. I think he's a great football player. I don't know if he's a fantasy guy.
Yeah.
Best ball, yes. But, like, regular fantasy, you have to manufacture a lot of touches for him to make him worthwhile. Like, manufacture touches.
Yeah, I think the one that stood out to me, like Garrett, Ryan mentioned, was Garrett Wilson being so low on the list. Below Kadarius Toney, even below Treylon Burks. I'd probably have him over Treylon Burks as well.
I would too. I just didn't want to hate on Treylon Burks tonight.
Yeah. And then I would flip Devonta Moore. Alec Pierce, he's down on the bottom.
Pierce, at the very last person there, I'd take him over a good handful of them because he also is a guy who has a skill set with his really good deep speed and his wingspan and ability to go get the ball and aggressive pass catcher in red zone threat. He could have a really nice fantasy value, and he could start right away for somebody.
Good stuff. All right,
I just don't like how high Terrace Marshall's draft or Terrace Marshall. I just don't.
Yeah,
I know what it's like a 42 ADP, so like it's close to the end. I don't care. He didn't do anything for me last year.
I think that was telling for me on Terrace Marshall is it wasn't like that he struggled, that they just left him inactive. Like some of the game, they just said, no, you're inactive. And it wasn't like they had like a lot of receivers in front of them. That kind of was a telling thing right there. It's like a Denzel Mims situation. They just left him inactive and didn't even play him.
I don't want to talk about him. Why you got to bring that up?
Sorry. The last thing I had here is on the overall ranking. I want to get your thoughts here. So, of course, the quarterbacks here are at a premium because there's so little of them. So they do kind of raise up ADP because of that. But Breece Hall is the first rookie off the board, and he is, I think, the 109. So he's behind Jamar Chase, obviously, Najee Harris, Javonte Williams, Jalen Waddle, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Kyle Pitts, Trevor Lawrence, and then Breece Hall. You have any issues with Breece Hall being that low, Ryan?
I think it's appropriate. Like, whatever running back is your running back one right now, whether it's Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, Isaiah Spiller, whoever your running back one is, I feel like that's the right spot. Like, you're below the elite guys. There's zero chance I'm taking any of these guys over Jamar Chase, Najee Harris, Williams, Waddle, and Pitts. Like, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
But right there in the quarterbacks, however you feel about that, but like out of the skill position guys, that's where that list ends for me. Like, where I'm starting to consider these rookies, and depending on landing spot and who I like the most, I'm going to start considering there. So I'm fine with that.
Fair. What about you, Garrett? What are your thoughts on Breece Hall being at the 109 there?
Just with my feelings on Trey Lance, he's being drafted as, the 5th pick overall.
Yeah, that's trash.
Having him behind Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence in this challenge, I think that he could be moved up to like the 108, but that's not that big of a difference. So I mean, it's pretty much appropriate, but I would have him like one spot higher. So
yeah, I think I'm with you too. Especially like I said, it's not super flex, but because of the way they do it, it's I think it's one quarterback, one running back, and then 2 wide receiver tight ends. So that quarterback position, because it is so shallow with the position and just in general, I think that those quarterbacks kind of raise up an ADP. So it feels like super flex, even though it's not. So that's kind of why I think the quarterbacks fall there. And I agree. I think Breece Hall, 109, 108 is probably where I'm thinking about him. I might even drop him down and take Devonta Smith over him potentially, and maybe even Amon Ross. Yeah, or Elijah Moore. Yeah, any of those guys that are right below him, I would probably take. I would, depending on how I was building my team there, I would think I'd probably take one of those guys over him.
I'd probably take. Honestly, I might take any of those 3 running backs. Any of the 3 rookie running backs this year above Amon Ra, and I love Amon Ra.
Fair.
And Etienne, I think slow. Like, he could be for a bounce back, even though I hate that offense.
Fair. Yeah, he's down pretty low there as well. I agree. All right, let's get to our final segment of the night.
Get ready for GoingFor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
All right, Garrett. Go ahead and give us. So you said you're going to go deep here. You're going to try to surprise us. Let's see if you're able to pull that off. Give us your Forgotten Fantasy Player here.
So I tried, and we'll see whether or not I do. I went way back to the second year that I played fantasy football because I know this player well because I had him on one of my rosters.
Nice.
Trey Mason, running back for the St. Louis Rams.
Nice.
He finished as the RB30 in PPR in 2014. Led the Rams that year in rushing, and yeah, that's who I've got.
He had that crazy little run there too, didn't he? I think towards the end of the season, or was it the middle of the season, where he had a string of really good games. I remember that.
Yeah, it was like a couple 100-yard games, and then just completely disappeared.
Disappeared
off into the sunset.
I feel like the Rams had like 3 or 4 running backs in a row who were like that.
Yeah, we've had a couple of those guys that have been on the Forgotten Fantasy Player.
And it's been like all different ones.
Yeah,
Zach Stacy was the year before that. I also had him on my and then
Zach Stacy's been used before on the show.
Yeah, he actually.
That's exactly what Ram running back I was trying to think of who was used before.
That's funny.
Yeah,
but yeah, I went with Trey Mason. It was between him and well, I don't know. I don't want to spoil it for maybe someone else who might come on the show. So
fair.
So
all right, that wraps the podcast up. Garrett, thanks for coming on. Let's go around the room really quick. Give us your Twitter handle one more time, and if you want to plug anything, go ahead and do that.
Sure. Yeah, my Twitter handle is @GarrettBFF, and just follow me for fantasy football content I'm coming out with and reactions to news, and also check out my podcast Ballfield Banter as well on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple, And I really appreciate that. And and also when in season, once the season starts ramping up, I'll be writing some more for Fantasy Six Pack. So make sure to follow me, and you'll definitely get those up on your timeline as well. Once once they retweet those and I retweet them and all. So
good stuff. Good stuff. Ryan, what you got going on? Anything new?
Oh, no, same as always. Find me Twitter, Foss534. Find me over at the NFL Draft Bob. My show comes out Wednesday mornings. We've been digging into it pretty deep. Have a good time over there. Find me here Wednesday nights, and that's it.
All right, good stuff. I'm going to plug a couple of our upcoming shows here. We're going to have our annual mock draft, NFL mock draft first round. We've got our panel already built. That'll be on April 10th.
Oh, I wish I had plug that. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it'll be. We got some good guests this year too, so I'm going to leave it sort of a surprise. But we got some really good guests coming on. And then Ryan kind of talked about it a little bit earlier with our mock coverage. In the past, me and Ryan have gone the first the first night 4 hours. We got someone else go the next night 5 hours, and then someone went day 3. This year we're going to divide it up where me and Ryan might kick it off for an hour, and then someone will pick up or we leave off and just kind of cover it that way. So it'll be a lot of fun doing that as well with the whole Going for Two live team to cover the draft. So be on the lookout for that as well. All right. For Garrett, for Ryan, I'm Jeff. We will see y'all next week.